The first thing after picking out a color, then I'm going to repaint the Honda Dio or Elite panels. And you can see that the color is slightly different. It's a little bit more blue metallic, kind of I would say a navy blue compared to an aqua blue. But this video is not about that. What I have to do next is remove the emblems or the decals I have here, which I don't know if you've seen my other previous videos, but what I do is I will paint the main coat of paint on the bike, and then I clear coat it with, I use either a clear in a can, that's primer, but I use a clear in a can, or what I'm going to use here is a multi-overall clear coat with a hardener. And that gives you a far superior clear. It's a lot brighter, shinier, and it's overall it'll hold up better. But I need to take off the decals and smooth the surface. And this is what I want to show you. This panel was painted about, I don't know, a year ago. Now, as a painter, I got this blue panel absolutely, totally smooth before I put the emblems on it. Now I want to show you, after 2 years of use, what happens when the paint really dries and really shrinks. Because you have to remember, in these cans right here, and in order to be a painter, we have to understand what the paint does exactly. Mainly, the color and the metallics are probably the bottom inch here. The rest of it is lacquer thinner or reducer, if you have an enamel, and that is the agent that allows the paint to stay liquid and put on your panel. But the thing is that, suppose I put on, suppose this weighs 16 ounces or a kiloliter, or liter, don't even get me started. But the paint itself only weighs an ounce in the bottom. In the end, when all the reducer is dried out of the paint, you will only have an ounce of color on here. Now everyone thinks, well, okay, we'll paint it, it'll look nice, and leave it alone, and that's it. No, the paint is always shrinking, it's always drying. And what happens when the paint dries, it will shrink into the form that your panel or your headlight cover here. And I'm gonna show you this real close so you can understand what I'm talking about. As the enamel reducer or lacquer thinner comes out of the paint as it's drying. Now, one tip is, if you want to know if your paint is dry or not, put your nose right up to the panel and take a big sniff. If you can sniff any type of lacquer thinner or reducer or chemical smell, that means that the reducer is coming out of the paint into the air and your paint is shrinking. The paint will shrink into whatever surface this was before I painted it. If it's rough, if it has cracks, if it has surface imperfections, then that paint will sink right into that and form right around it. As proof, I'll show you. This was painted absolutely perfectly smooth, and if you look very closely, I'll see if I can hold this up into the light. We'll look right along here. You can see where there's scratch marks in the paint, where it should be totally flawless, but it's not. You can see other scratch marks where the paint is sunk into it. That is because the paint has dried, and dried right into the imperfections that were in the paint surface when I painted it. Let's see if I can find some other glaring mistakes. not mistakes. Like right here, for instance, you can see, I don't know if you can see it, we'll try and see it. You can see that there's some ridges right along here. And that's where I tried to do some putty work or whatever, and it wasn't totally dry. And then as it dried, the paint sank right into it. So you want to make sure that you have your, see, there's a problem right there. See the little crack in the paint right there? And if you follow that crack, it goes right up to the bottom here and all the way around where my camera is. You can see it right there very clearly. Okay, that's where the plastic or spot putty did not dry completely, and the paint just sank right into it as it dried. So you want to make sure that you have your surface dry so that this doesn't happen. Also, you can see right around the RR emblem where I sprayed the clear, and you can also see, if you look on the Repsol, the navy blue, do you see where, as I pan the camera across the letters, that you can see where it should be absolutely, the light should be reflecting absolutely perfectly for this light right here. Should be reflecting, but it's not. It's all orange peeling. That's because the clear dried and it didn't completely dry before I polished it. And so that's what happens. It's the orange peel effect. So we're going to get rid of that and put some cool emblems on it. I'll show you some neat emblems. I just got it from Hong Kong.